they would rather be burnt alive than see their ancestral land be submerged. The Jal Shakti Mantralaya has the audacity to issue written statements claiming no protest has been observed. You cannot claim you're giving water to a region by drowning out the very tribal people who have protected those river basins for generations. Today, we must also speak about the other ongoing protests that haven't got the media attention that it deserves. The human and environmental cost of a state obsessed with its own idea of blind progress. While the mainstream cameras remain hyper-focused on political optics in Delhi, a silent, desperate war is being waged in the heart of India's forests and its mountains, from the drought-prone areas of Bundelkhand to the fragile, steep slopes of Uttarakhand. Local residents and indigenous tribal communities are putting their lives entirely on the line. They aren't just holding banners, they are organizing hunger strikes, lying on symbolic funeral pyres, and hugging trees to shield them from state bulldozers. And how is the state responding? Similarly as what it's doing in Delhi or Mumbai, with midnight crackdowns, brute force, and the total silencing of local dissent. Tonight we reveal the raw truth of Ken Betwa River Link project and the Uttarakhand highway crisis. Let's start deep in the heart of Madhya Pradesh's Chhatarpur district, where you're seeing a script unfold just a few days ago. Early Sunday morning, a massive fleet of 150 to 200 police vehicles loaded with thousands of personnel descended upon the banks of the Barana river stream in Kupi village. What was their mission? To forcefully dismantle a 15-day mass protest led primarily by the tribal women. The state targeted the face of the agitation, activist Amit Bhatnagar, who was on the 14th day of an indefinite hunger strike. As his health deteriorated, he was forcibly removed by a sea of police officers and shifted under heavy guard to government hospital. To understand the sheer desperation of these indigenous communities, look at the nature of their protest. They didn't just sit, they launched a Jal Satyagraha, standing chest deep in freezing monsoon waters. They organized a Chitta Andolan, lying flat on symbolic wood funeral pyres to declare they would rather be burnt alive than see their ancestral land be submerged. They even held a symbolic Phansi Satyagraha. This 44,605 crore mega project, India's first river interlinking initiative, is aggressively being sold as a game changer for Bundelkhand's water crisis. But the government conveniently omits the collateral damage. It will permanently submerge major chunks of the Panna Tiger Reserve and completely displace nearly 6,600 families. While tribal families face disconnected electricity, illegal evictions, and arbitrary criminal cases slapped against over 250 local activists, the Jal Shakti Mantralaya has the audacity to issue written statements claiming no protest has been observed. They're literally erasing the existence of protesting citizens from public records. In response to the forced removal of Bhatnagar, the entire region observed a historic Chulha Bandh Andolan on Monday, with thousands of homes refusing to light their stoves or cook food, a massive wave of silent domestic solidarity. Now move your eyes up north to the ecologically fragile valleys of Uttarakhand, where another infrastructure nightmare has sparked massive public outrage. The National Highway Authority of India, NHAI, greenlit a massive 4-lane road widening project connecting Bhaniawala, Jolly Grant and Rishikesh. The price tag for this connectivity, the planned systematic slaughter of more than 4,300 centuries-old heritage sal trees. Over the last week, local residents, environmental groups, and women activists took to the highway at Satmod. In a moving throwback to the historic Chipko movement, citizens wept openly, formed massive human chains, and literally hugged the tree trunks to shield them from a state-sponsored chainsaws. This isn't just about losing green cover. The targeted forest cuts directly through the highly sensitive eco-corridors of the Shivalik Elephant Reserve and the Rajaji Tiger Reserve boundary. Chop these trees and you guarantee a devastating surge in human-elephant conflict and trigger catastrophic landslides in a landscape already fractured by unscientific mountain blasting. The public pressure grew so immense, amplified by viral videos of women emotionally screaming at the loggers and opposition leaders taking up the cause, that the Chief Minister, Pushkar Singh Dhami, was forced to take a hasty U-turn. He ordered an immediate temporary halt to the tree felling, but only after roughly 400 Asian trees had already been chopped down. The state keeps telling us that these multi-thousand crore projects are for the greater public good. They tell us that if you want drinking water in Bundelkhand or a faster drive to Himalayan tourist spot, the local populations must sacrifice their livelihoods, their homes, and their ecological security. But let's look at the staggering imbalance of this equation. Because this isn't development alone. This is ecological and social colonization. You cannot claim you're giving water to a region by drowning out the very tribal people who have protected those river basins for generations. You cannot claim you're improving life in Devbhoomi, Uttarakhand by slaughtering the forest that prevents the mountains from collapsing onto the highway. The government thinks that by using a midnight police force to dismantle the tents of a fasting farmer leader in Chhatarpur, that they have solved the Ken Betwa problem, then they're wrong. They think that by pausing a chainsaw in Uttarakhand for a few days to manage a PR crisis, they have appeased the residents. They are fundamentally wrong. The Chulha Band Andolan in Bundelkhand and the tearful eyes of huge tree huggers in Rishikesh show that people have realized a profound truth. A government that views nature merely as real estate and citizens as a projected affected liability is a government that has completely lost its moral compass. You cannot build a sustainable nation on the graveyard of its ecosystems and the broken bones of its indigenous people. The residents are awake, the hunger strikes will multiply, and the streets will not just empty until human centric justice is delivered. And that is why it is important that we talk about these issues, which I usually do not find the media focus that it truly deserves. We need development. Nobody is against development. But we also need to keep in mind that the livelihoods that are going to change, the stakeholders who need to be taken into confidence, that the landowners who will give up their land, those tribal people who have for long been in those areas are placated, are taken care of. Development is not just a one-way street. Development is a collaborative project where you keep people at the center of it all. With these thoughts, I leave you today on Straight Talk with PC, and I'll see you next week. And once again, do not forget to subscribe, share, follow, and press that bell alarm so that you are alerted every time I put up a new video. Thank you so much.